What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Watch Dogs Legion and talk about, is this game really going to get delayed again? Now, I know I've talked about this before, but now we have a little, this isn't necessarily a hint, but this is something that's definitely not a positive thing, and it does make me pretty darn worried. Now, I'm recording this video a few days ago, and the official PlayStation magazine, right? Technically, it goes out in terms of like physical copies, I believe tomorrow. And remember, this is where they were going to talk about the 38 next-gen PS5 games, right? It's more or less a list. It's pretty much, and I'm going to show pictures because it's actually online and you can see it for free. They show pictures of the title and all these different things, like basically a small description of 38 PS5 games, okay? And in that, they give their, and this is all, now again, this is just theirs. So if you don't want to go based off what they say, that's totally cool. In fact, I don't even want to go based off what they say for some of these things, but again, it's just something to kind of add to the Watch Dogs discussion. They give the basically time period that they think that these games are going to be released, and it says expected release key. When it's red, it says 12 plus months, so a year after basically launch on the PS5 of when this game is coming out. In yellow, if the yellow dot is filled out, it's 6 to 12 months, and if the green dot is circled, it's launch window, okay? Now, I'll show a bunch. There's actually quite a few that are kind of fun, especially if they are right, but you see examples like Battlefield 6, which has the red, because we know, again, it's probably not coming out until fall of 2021. We have games like Scarlet Nexus, that game that was at Inside Xbox that I thought looks really cool, that says 6 to 12 months. So you go through, Sims 5 is actually on here, which is an interesting one because we kind of know Sims 5 is in the works, but again, kind of far out. We have Dragon Age 4, we have Dying Light 2, so there's a lot of other games that maybe you can use to kind of help the argument that they know what they're talking about. And if you look, second to last game, Watch Dogs Legion, okay? Now, it gives the whole estimated release that they don't know it, obviously. Publisher is Ubisoft, developer is Ubisoft Toronto. The delayed open world adventure puts us in a post-Brexit London, and every character in the city is playable. So a small excerpt, right? But what does it say? The yellow dot is filled in, okay? Yellow dot. Yellow dot means 6 to 12 months. So this website, now again, it's just, I mean, it's a website, it's a publication, right? They have it's a magazine. You can only base off so much, right? And they have their own opinions, just like we can have all of our own opinions, but they expect it to release 6 to 12 months after the PS5 launch. It's not green. Green would mean launch window. Again, Assassin's Creed Valhalla has green. NHL 21 has, like the sports games, they have green. So, and again, a lot of these are kind of, some of them are confirmed, some of them, like, we can kind of basically infer. Again, like with Battlefield's example, we know that it's not releasing until fall of 2021, so obviously that's a year. Dying Light makes sense why you'd say 6 to 12. Even though it's delayed indefinitely, we technically have no idea when Dying Light 2 is coming out. We can kind of, again, assume that it's not going to be like 5 years after the PS5, right? It's gonna be somewhat around the time that it comes out. Now, again, what does launch window mean? There's nothing in between. I will say this: if you guys are on the side of, well, and I obviously am on the side as well. It's like, we don't want Watch Dogs delayed, but if you want to try and pick at this, one thing I would say is, well, it goes literally from launch window to 6 months. There's no in between. So launch window, really, that means, in my opinion, that means like that month. In my opinion, launch window means basically the fall/holiday, which ends in December. So for the things that they have in green, that to me says games that launch in October, even game, I guess technically, right? Because like Madden will launch, but then it'll also have a PS5 version. So like really a lot of different games. I think The Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima will have PS5 versions, but let's say games that are like September through December. Those are pretty much your launch window. Really, launch window is like November and December, but we know there's going to be games that release in October that'll have like the free upgrade system. So somewhere in that realm. So technically, going from that to 6 months, well, now all of a sudden you've gone from November to May. And that is a really big jump. And also, we know that Ubisoft has their list of games they want to release in this fiscal year, and Watch Dogs is on it, and the year ends in March. And we know March actually ends with the next Far Cry 6. So, as far as we know, Ubisoft right now wants Watch Dogs to release this fall. In fact, they want Watch Dogs to release this fall with Assassin's Creed. Is that a good idea? No, and I've always said that, but that seems to be the path they've taken. However, in that, and now what I will say in PlayStation's magazine's defense is Ubisoft also at the same time said, hey, it is possible a couple of these, like 1 or 2 of these, could end up getting delayed because of what's happened around the world. Now, should Watch Dogs really have been affected? No, because Watch Dogs has been in the making for a long time. Watch Dogs was supposed to release last November, not this November. And then if it's delayed even further, that's even worse. That looks really, really bad on them. But really, it shouldn't have been affected by what's gone on around the world. But if they want to use that as their kind of hidden, like if they want to say that's the reason, although they're hiding like the real reason, which honestly a lot of these game developers and publishers end up doing, I wouldn't be all that surprised. It's not a good sign. It honestly is not a good sign. I know I've been back and forth with how I feel on this game, and really in terms of, I guess, the videos that I've made, right? Some videos I've talked about more positive things about it. Some videos talked about more negative. But my opinion of this game has honestly always stayed the same. I want this game to be good. I'm excited for it. I think it has a lot of potential. It from what even we've seen so far, it looks pretty solid. It looks better than the first 2 games. Like I think I'd be more interested in playing this. If you showed me all 3 of them at once, I'd be more interested in playing this than the other 2. Okay, so it's got a lot of things on its side from me that I'm really interested in, but there's just so, and I know I made the video of like why I'm worried about it, and it's gotten a little bit of hate. I don't really get why, because ultimately, when you have a game that was supposed to come out in November, then was pushed to March, then was delayed indefinitely, and we haven't heard anything about it, and we've seen it one time in terms of gameplay, I don't know how you can say that game's looking good. Okay, now again, like we can still try and find positives. We can feel like, okay, well, we trust them, or like we just want the game to be good, so we're willing to give it a chance. Like you can have whatever reason you want, but at the same time, they are not good signs. And now, again, this is the official PlayStation magazine, but they don't have an inside with Ubisoft. Okay, it's not like Ubisoft told them, hey, on your in this newest issue, make sure you mark Watch Dogs Legion as it's coming out 6 to 12 months after. Okay, don't put it for launch window, because that's not true. You know what I mean? Like it's not like they did that. They don't necessarily. They're guesses, just like Game Informer. They do things all the time. I mean, they are in the gaming industry. I'm sure they have contacts. I'm sure they have all that. The question is, like, do they know something basically that we don't? Ultimately, we're gonna probably find this out very, very soon. I'm gonna be continuing Watch Dogs coverage. I'm gonna be continuing talking about this game before this, but that Ubisoft show, which I believe is July 12th, that's, I think, when we're gonna get it. We're gonna get hopefully we're going to see it again, and we should get a newer release, whether it says 2021 or whether it actually gives a release date for 2020. I really do hope it's this year. I think it was, even though we hadn't seen it, and even though they haven't really talked about it in the past, I think it was still looking pretty solid that the game was releasing this fall for a while. Now, again, we've been through so much in so little time, that's hard to judge, right? Again, around November, a little bit before November, I think it was around September or in the summer, they pushed it. Okay, so it was pushed. Actually, it could have been even later than that. It was pushed to March, and then all of a sudden it got pushed from March to indefinite. So again, like it hasn't even been that long. Like Watch Dogs Legion should have came out in March or should have came out in November, but it's not that far afterwards. But honestly, again, like even with all this negative stuff, I have always assumed like, okay, games should be good to go, because the excuse I think we've all made for them that also does, I get, like it does qualify, right? It's not the worst excuse in the book, is if they needed more, and I've said this before, if they needed more time to make this game and they delayed it, okay, so they delayed it from November to March, they needed more time, then they were looking at it and saying, well, we could use even more time. We really could. We have a lot of these issues. We need to, we can make the game better, whatever. We really could use more time from March. And if you do it indefinitely, or if you don't, if you give us a while, we could even make a next-gen version for it, and so it can be a cross-gen game. Because again, remember, a game that comes out in November of 2019 is not a game designed only for next-gen. Okay, it just absolutely isn't, because it would have only been out on current-gen, on PS4, Xbox One, right? So if that was the case, again, that is slightly, you can excuse them a little, like at least there's a reason that they could say, all right, well, we have stuff to work on, we still have to, like we're not done with it yet, and we'll use the additional time to make a next-gen version. But to then come out 6 to 12, what? Is it going to come out next summer, like next June, or even crazier, would it come out fall of 2021? That would be insane. What happened? Like, did they cancel the current gen version and because people have suggested that maybe they canceled the current gen version and only are now working on next gen. Maybe, but you would think it would be easier than this. Like, you would think it would take less time. I don't know. I don't know how the gaming development cycle works, but I feel like if you have a game almost completely done on current gen, even if you're going to port it or remap, because basically what they'd be doing is without having released the original version, you're still kind of remastering it, or Game of the Year edition or Deluxe edition. You know what I mean? Like that kind of that glossy name that they use. You'd basically be doing that without releasing the original version. That's what you would be doing internally. So even that excuse, that should only take like a year. It should not take longer than a year. If your game was almost done, if you were ready to go in November of last year, to then have it come out this fall or even later, again, that would definitely be a negative. It's not looking good. There are a lot of negatives here. The game could very, very well be in big trouble, and it sucks because Watch Dogs is a franchise that's sold very well, and for a franchise that, again, like I've always said, potential outweighs what we've gotten. I had fun with parts of 2. I had fun with parts of 1, but I think people have been getting these games, and I think people are getting tired of them. I think they're, again, they are fun for what they are, I guess, if you go in with the right expectations, but I think Watch Dogs has always had the potential to, and still does, to be so much more than what we've gotten. And, add that on to the fact that like these games have not been treated very well in any respect, basically, and now what they've done to Watch Dogs Legion, it's not looking good. Like, if this game sells bad, this is the 3rd game. Like, do you end it? Do you just make a brand new franchise? We'll have to see, but I really do want this game out. I mean, I'm not against this game at all. I'm actually very much for this game. I just want the game released. I don't even want that. Just give me a release date, and please, hopefully, don't make it be next year. It will have problems of its own, releasing so close to Assassin's Creed, and I've talked about that. I think that will actually hurt it big time, but at the same time, I don't know, if you wait an additional year, that really makes you look bad. So honestly, they're kind of stuck in a really tough spot, in my opinion. Again, I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Let me know. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed to our YouTube channel, Podcast Now. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when these videos go up. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I truly appreciate it. I'll be covering Watch Dogs, like I said, more and more as time goes on. And whenever we see it again, whenever we get news on this game, I'll absolutely continue to cover it, okay? Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.